It's the old Doctor Who show, episode number 44, Time Flight.
Go forward in all your beliefs and prove to me that I am not mistaken in mine.
You couldn't control my mind before, and you certainly can't control it now.
Would you like a cherry, baby?
The TARDIS, when working properly, is capable of many amazing things.
Reverse the polarity of the neutron flows, and the TARDIS will be free of the force field.
But the TARDIS is more than a machine, Stephen. It's like a person, indeed.
The resulting reaction is Are you ready?
It's the old Doctor Who show, your tri-weekly classic Doctor Who review podcast. I'm your host, Dan.
And I'm Eric, and that feels uncomfortable. It doesn't feel right
that.
when you intro it.
No,
Nothing against your ability, but I felt like I was in a van being taken against my will somewhere. They said they knew my father. But
I'm hoping all of our listeners
it's
feel
fine.
the same
If you're listening to this and you have been abducted, apologies. First off, straight up, don't mean to.
It is not our fault, but we're still sorry.
Sorry, not sorry. So how are you doing today, Dan? You are. This is what we should say, because we like to tell people things that they don't really care about. We are recording this Monday night as opposed to our normal Sunday morning record session, because you were.
I was at New York City Pride yesterday.
Priding it up and marching it up.
I was being super proud.
I hope during your march you were handing out ways that people could leave us reviews on iTunes or Stitcher or whatever.
All it was, I would just grab people's phones, open up their podcast app, and do reviews of our show.
What a time to be alive! And then you're just
let me do this. Just let me do this. Be proud. Yeah, pride. Shh. So we have about 50 new reviews to get through today.
Oh, that's awesome! But it was a good time. It was a good day.
I'd never done it before. I hadn't been to a Pride in about 20 years. My boyfriend and I said the last time we went to a Pride was one of the first times we ever met each other. That was years ago. I used to go all the time when I was younger. The last time I went, we were on a rooftop overlooking Christopher Street, like having drinks and whatever. I was like, this is it. I never have to come again because it is a hot, sweaty mess.
I did it.
I solved homophobia. But I had never marched before, and my company was in the parade, so I was like, I'm gonna go do that, and that was a really fun experience. It was really great. It was actually really moving, going right by the Stonewall Inn at the very end. That's kind of how the parade route ends up, and it's been a year since it's been made into a national landmark, which is really moving. That's where it all started for us, getting our special rights.
Right. Yeah, I saw it was following some of your Instagram. Is that a public thing, your Instagram, or is that private?
Yeah, my Instagram's
that you can follow
also
Dan at DanJNJ on Instagram?
Probably. Yeah, I think it's at DanJNJ.
It don't matter.
Yeah, same thing. It don't matter.
No. But what else was going on? I think we had a bunch of... We can't talk about Twin Peaks, even though I would like to.
Oh, my gosh.
We've had new Doctor Who episodes. I'm just about caught up, I think.
I'm one behind.
Oh, yeah.
I'm one behind.
So am I, from Saturday.
You know what? I made the same mistake again. I watched the one with the Romans, with the Darkness one, whatever. I really liked that one a lot. I thought it was really good. I made the mistake of letting it run past the credits where they show the next time on Doctor Who, and they always ruin it.
Why?
Every time.
The bit that I think you're referring to had already been ruined for me from some BBC promotional thing. I wish they didn't.
They have 40-something minutes worth of footage. They could tease it really clever.
I know.
And, I mean, it just makes me sad. Do you remember, like, on Mad Men, when they would... Do you watch that, right? I did watch that. And when they would do it next time on Mad Men, it was the most obscure... Like, they would just take moments. You have no idea. It was the most dramatic next time on Mad Men. You have no idea.
That's how
Everything's out of context. And that's
Stop
the way
giving everything away.
But in this, like, oh, well, you better watch it because so-and-so is going to be on.
Yeah,
I know.
What you're referring to, and we won't spoil it for anyone who's probably already been spoiled, but it's like something like that I would have loved to have found out naturally in the course of the story.
As though they needed to tease that, because I wouldn't watch it otherwise. But now that I know this is happening, I guess I'll watch. Come on.
But to you had mentioned that was one of your favorites. That episode, the one with the Romans, was my favorite of the whole season 11 or 10. Season 10.
wherever we are.
But we're not talking about new Doctor Who.
Nice shirt. Speaking of classic Doctors, I like your shirt.
I have a, you can't see, this is great for an audio podcast, but I'm wearing a Doctor Who shirt with all of the Doctors on it.
It's like a clock, and each one, number 1 through 12. Right. That's not a very good Capaldi, though. It's not a great
Capaldi, but it's good enough for me. I was happy when I bought the shirt, so thanks for ruining it. I'm sorry, I love it.
It's the best Capaldi.
And then once they add a new Doctor, the shirt will be useless, and I'll just throw it out. Let's talk about Time Flight, because I don't think we have anything else. We have no reviews. Very sad.
Nope. Hey,
we have some emails for the end.
What's happening with Gregory's suicide?
What did we say? Books are still available for pre-order on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. You can go to your comic store and you can tell them, hey, order this for me. It should be in previews. But nothing. I mean, we're still working on it, so it's going to be October 12th, I think, in comic stores, and then October 24th in bookstores, something like that. I should probably know that, but
I'm
more on that as it gets closer
every time.
to
I don't care. I'm just excited
release.
about it. Yeah, he keeps sending me individual out of context panels.
Yeah, I've sent Dan a few panels.
Makes me very excited about it. So I'm just gonna keep teasing it until then.
Got some. All right, well, so let's get into Time.
Let's hit that button.
Let's hit that button and take us to Time Flight
Time
School.
Town. Time. Ooh. Yeah.
Better watch out for the odd brontosaurus.
Were they the creatures I saw?
I doubt it, but I should think they came from this time zone.
Do you really mean we've gone backward down a time contour?
Have you another explanation?
But we were on Concorde.
How did we land on this?
Very violently, by the look of it.
The touchdown was perfect.
It's like having a tooth out under hypnosis. You don't feel a thing.
But the approach to Heathrow was utterly real.
So was the Indian rope trick.
And Doctor, somewhere in this wilderness must be the passengers and crew of Victor Foxtrot.
Well, don't worry, Captain. We'll find them. Let's hope no one finds us first.
What do you mean?
Behind every illusion, there's a conjurer. In this case, I shouldn't think he went to all this trouble for our entertainment.
Doctor! It's the other Concorde!
Tegan, wait! All of you, stay here.
Sharaz, to my love.
This is Time Flight. This is the 7th serial in the 19th season, or of the 19th season. This is from 1982, written by Peter Grimwade and directed by Ron Jones, or Ronnie, as his friends would like to say. Hey, Ronnie, you doing another episode of Doctor Who? Get out of my room, Dad. Yeah.
Better.
So what was this episode about, Dan?
You tell me with a little synopsis that you came with.
The Doctor, Tegan, and Nyssa decide that after the loss of Adric, they should all go to the Great Exhibition of 1851 to get their minds off the dead boy in the sad sack. But instead of getting to the Great Expedition, they arrive in 1980s England, where they get to see Concorde. But this Concorde has flown the coop, and the Doctor is just the man to find it. Retracing the flight path of the missing Concorde, the Doctor and the crew get on board another Concorde, and they go back hundreds of millions of years in the hopes of finding Concorde. So Dan, what did you think of Concorde as a Time Flight?
I liked it just as much as I like that intro, which is a whole lot. Why is this a divisive episode?
All right, I will tell you, because this episode sucks. Really? I fall on the other side of that. Like you kept, we again, this is funny. The old Doctor Who promise is we don't talk about these things. So I knew Dan kind of liked it. I did not like this episode. First off, this episode has a character who is so racist that halfway through the episode, I think they just went to him and said, you know what, this whole thing's a little too racist. Why don't you just go back to playing the Master just for the back half of this story? Why were you dressed up like that character when no one was around and still go and talking to yourself in that horribly offensive voice? No reason? Fantastic. I lost Dan on that.
Okay.
What was
Were there problems with
There's so
episode?
many there's a good story in it.
Yes, the story was good. The story was fine. It was not.
There's some
I would put this in the top
elements
half of
that
all,
are good,
all,
and
all
a
the
lot
shows
of elements that are not good. Especially at the end, I felt like the end. First off, this episode was brought to you by Concorde. I mean, how many times is he going to say
the grape, not
Concorde?
The airline.
Impressive vehicle, but it was a lot of Concorde.
Concorde. Concorde. Brought to you by Concorde.
But yeah, I did not like it as much. I felt like there were so many. It is like 2 episodes. Like the whole first half is sort of one, and then they feel like they just all of a sudden the master's a part of it, and that was his plan the whole time. But for some reason,
let me talk myself into hating this episode.
Tell me why it's a good one.
No. Let me talk myself into disliking this episode because I'm gonna go through all the things that were wrong.
So tell us.
Okay, exactly. That was real bad. Not since Breakfast at Tiffany's with Mickey Rooney doing a Chinaman, and I say that advisedly. Have I seen such an offensive stereotype? So that was horrifyingly bad. The makeup as well. His makeup was. I don't know if that's what they're going for.
And then he's spitting up like all that goo and stuff.
No, that was the only part of the makeup that I liked was when he was like snotting all over himself and exploded. I don't care. That was fine.
Because then shortly after the snotting, he rips his mask off and he's like, and he's totally fine. There's no snot anywhere. He's clean and ready to party. He's like,
So that's your problem with the episode?
Yeah, whatever. But go on, explain to me why it's good.
So that was a problem, I admit.
Bob, this is too racist. We have the master costume from the couple storylines. You put it on him. Put it on him. Just rub that stuff on his face. It doesn't matter.
This was not okay.
Well, no, you said it's good, so let's get the.
So and Tegan was in the way the entire time, and the doctor seemed like he wanted to hit her.
She finally got her chance to be a stewardess. Like
how she was in her glory.
She was in her glory.
At the end when she got to direct them, the people who've been stranded in prehistory, stranded in a hallucinatory state. She got to, if you don't mind, taking your seats in the car. She was ready to go,
and that was a funny moment. I
lovely for her, lovely. Otherwise, I think the doctor wanted to kill her. The special effects of the what did they call it? But
the bubble people.
Yes, the bubble people,
or whatever they were. They were sort of proteins or something from the atmosphere that was being collected and controlled by the master.
Please don't write in to correct us with whatever it is, because no one actually cares.
It doesn't matter.
Okay, so that wasn't great.
All right, so hold on. Let's just do a checklist. Khalid or whatever. The racist bad guy. You are not a fan.
Not a fan.
His minions, the bubble people. Not a fan. Tegan. You were not a fan.
The episode. No, don't think that worked really.
We're running out of.
The fact that there was a master reveal actually turned me off to it entirely, because that's been done 1,000 times and wasn't super convincing.
But I made a joke of it. But why was he impersonating?
I know.
Because that wasn't even the race. The race was this other beings that crash landed and were radiation poisoning, right? And they had to shed their bodies. That was a cool concept. And then the master came to while they were resurrecting themselves, and then decided that he was going to be just racist for. Speaking of racist, also the scientist. What was the guy's name?
Oh, the professor?
Professor Hader. He seems like the guy that would write a paper justifying racism. Did you get sort of like that vibe from him? Like, I didn't like him. He was sort of like the KFC Colonel Sanders, a little bit of equality, but also kind of weird and racist. I thought he was kind of sort of dickish. So like, I felt like I didn't like anyone except for the captain. He seemed like I'll follow you to hell, doctor. Like they just met and he was like, whatever, you guys are all idiots. I'm following this guy.
Yeah.
He was good.
Well, I mean, I had a problem. Yes, I liked him. The flight crew was fine. But
the mustache crew?
Yeah, the mustache. Oh man, there were so many.
A lot of dudes in this episode too.
I also had a problem with the fact that in the final episode of this story, the doctor yells at Nisa, thinking that she moved some of the parts around, and if we had taken off,
he would have hit her
parts,
probably, right?
He was. You know what would have happened to us? But then the captain says, "Oh, I did that because I was trying to throw a spanner in the works." So he's like, "Oh, that's brilliant. If you did it, then that's fine." There was so much weird misogyny going on in this episode. On top of everything else?
We just did Earthshock, and we made a point of saying, oh, this was great. There was men and women, and everyone had a role. And like this one was like the opposite. There was only one woman, not counting the companions, obviously, who has like 2 lines, and she's basically
another stewardess,
and that was it. Right. Otherwise, it was all mustache dudes,
all mustaches,
and your standard racist villains, and just
even DJ Khaled had a mustache.
Oh yeah,
a really racist mustache too, and the beard with the little braids going down. His kimono-ish thing that he's. It was really problematic.
And I also felt like with this episode, a lot of this. And this is, I guess, speaks more to the pacing, was just people waiting around to do things that they don't even necessarily do. Like, they make one point, and this is much later on in the episode, where Concorde, they see the other Concorde, and then they realize it's the Master's TARDIS impersonating it, and then the Doctor comes up with a plan, or Nyssa comes up with the plan that she pitches the Doctor, where they're going to land their TARDIS on top of his TARDIS.
It was the Doctor's plan.
And there's a whole back and forth, and they don't even do it because something else happens. And like, I felt like the whole episode was that scene, was them talking about doing something, waiting to do it, and not doing it.
So I know what you mean. Yeah. I can't think of any other examples. That really,
to the good
but that
stuff.
Is how that was the mood of the whole thing.
It was. It just felt like it didn't feel thought out, or like, I don't know, it felt very weak, story-wise, plot-wise, and everything else.
Okay, but going back, at least there was a bit of dealing with the aftermath of Adric.
Yeah, I guess let's start there.
There was a little bit of that. I mean, not a whole lot. One of our listeners did make the point that it's not new Doctor Who where they're going to mope around about it and be all emo about it for like 3 episodes.
Yeah, when I read that, I thought like, oh, they're not even going to acknowledge it, but they certainly did, and they made a point of confronting the Doctor about it. Yeah, and then he was sort of weird with his response, but it's basically, hey, we're not allowed to change.
Well,
time.
No, he says Adric had a choice. This is the way he wanted it. I don't think that's actually true.
Yeah, he didn't want to die.
I mean, I think Adric wanted to save them. I don't think that he really wanted to crash.
Right, for no reason.
So, yeah.
That was a point of contention between Dan and I during Earthshock.
Doctor,
I still claim that I'm right that he died for no reason.
No, you're totally wrong. He did it. But whatever lets the Doctor get to sleep at night, that's fine. He convinced himself. So at least there was a little bit of that, and the fact that we find out to be the Master.
We'll stay there. Don't leave there, because I want to know what your impression of the Doctor's reaction to all of that. Ooh. Did you feel he was like overly cold or sort of angry about? Like, he's like, you will never ask me that again. Whereas like the way that they set this episode, the storyline up is it's minutes after they've just gotten rid of the previous crew that we got to know in Earthshock. So I think the episode the first part starts with the Doctor walking in the doors, and he's like, hey, I got rid of the crew, or the crew are safely back on their planet. What do you guys want to do? And then they're like, we just lost Adric. Let's save him.
And he's like, Adric who?
And he's already over it. Like, he's like, we can't. He's fine. He's in a better place now. Get over it. Let's go party. It was weird. I mean, again, like, you know, they're not going to spend a whole storyline dealing with grief. But he felt it was either confront it or don't confront it. It felt like they were doing both. But I guess they're setting the rules that you cannot bring anyone back and you can't change time.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that we haven't seen that in these stories that we've reviewed together. These kind of ground rules. I mean, they make certain things, like there's certain things you can't change and whatever. But yeah, no, going back and saving him is not a thing you can do. But getting flying off the handle about that seemed like he was overreacting, and that's not what he was talking about. He was actually dealing with his grief about it. But
yeah, I mean, it's fine.
That's just me talking. It wasn't really obvious at all. Yeah, exactly.
Within minutes after that,
we'll
on
find
a new
another potato sack boy on another planet somewhere else. It's fine. We can replace him.
He's in the great potato fields of the sky. having one last potato sack race in his own clothes, trying to beat his dead brother. R.I.P. Shortly after that scene, we are in the middle of the airport, right? Because I guess it starts with the Concorde disappearing. That's how the storyline starts. Then we go into the doctor, and then they feel that same thing. Well, they're going back to 18 whatever. What did I say it was in the opening? 1851.
1851. Yeah.
And then they feel the disturbance of the time reach from hundreds of millions of years where the master is.
Yeah, whatever. Yes.
Yeah, can we talk about that? Because I so that I completely understand it, because I'm dumb.
I don't think I can elucidate.
The master is going to use the entity, the consciousness entity, where all the consciousness of that whole race is in one organic being.
It's coalesced down into one
whatever.
being.
He's going to use that to power his TARDIS, because his TARDIS no longer runs. So he's reaching into the future to get what?
Well, he's only been able to kind of bend time like a spider spinning a web, waiting for things to fall into it. To get what exactly? I mean, what the whole plan?
Well, that was my question. I'm sure they said it, and I just missed it.
No, I don't think so. I'm trying to think through it as well. Was he trying to lure the Doctor there the whole time? Was that like the intent? Was the Doctor's TARDIS is going to fall into my evil?
Kind of. I mean, that's
maybe
right. That's what I thought.
I mean, isn't that the way it always is?
But I guess my other question should be like, physically, is the exhibition in England in the physical same spot as Heathrow Airport, and that's why they felt the disturbance, because he was going to that same location in the past.
I don't think
so. And then he overreached, and that's why he grabbed the Concorde instead of grabbing the TARDIS.
Everyone who lives there is laughing at us right now. I have no idea.
Yeah,
I would guess not.
Because that I can sort of play out in my head, like he's reaching into the future to grab.
Though, Eric,
it doesn't matter.
I can't imagine that they would have plowed all that under in order to put down a tarmac. So no, I'm going to say no. That's not the case. But
it doesn't matter. So he arrives. He gets the flash. His unit credentials, or he doesn't show anything. He just says, "Hey, call unit, and they'll know who I am." So he gets to be a big shot.
Yeah, he doesn't use it. He doesn't flash any credentials, right?
He doesn't. I think he just says, "Hey, contact unit." You know, they'll know who I am.
Does everyone just so he says this to like a head of security at Heathrow. Everyone knows who unit is? Like, is this, I don't know, in this fiction, does like the common police officer on the street know who unit is?
I don't think so. I mean, maybe or maybe not, but I think what happens in this is he says that, then the guy calls his boss. Hey, this guy says something about unit, and he's already on the phone with unit, right?
So someone else
must have called in and said unit, which sets off a flag, and then
okay, all right, I'll buy that.
But in any case, he gets to be, and then I'm like, it's going to be something in our time, but no, they go 100 million years in the past. So we're only at the airport just to strand Tegan there. Oh, and to get the Concorde in it, because the Concorde is a very important part of this episode. We get two Concordes. We've got a lot of stock footage of Concordes flying and close-ups of engines.
There's some really bad stock footage of Concorde as well.
Yeah,
but
the Concorde is a big part of this. And the concept of the plane going back in time is cool. So there are things about this story I do like. It just doesn't fit all together. It's like four or five stories, and I wish they just stuck.
You know what I
with
did?
one.
I really did enjoy the way, and again, this tends to be the way even in bad stories. There's good acting. I really enjoyed the way that the performers were able to portray being in this hallucinatory state where they thought that they were doing
when they
something
weren't
else.
covered in bubbles.
That's right. When they were not covered in bubbles. Those times were not as good. But when the crew is there and they're being forced into manual labor and they're doing all this and they're just like in this blithe state of compliance for the master.
God.
Like, I mean, there was some really I liked some of that.
Some of it was good. Some of it was good. Why is the master stealing the crew at the end? He succeeds and he gets the Zerafin. That's their name, right? Zerafin.
Yes.
He gets their sort of brain, for lack of a better word, into his TARDIS, and he's ready to go, and then he has all of the crew go into his TARDIS before he leaves. What was the reasoning behind keeping the crew? I think they do say something. He's just going to make a collection of little dolls, perhaps. I mean, one at a time.
He's got all these little dresses. He needs all these little dolls. So I could have watched this one a little closer to remember why that is, but
there's just there were so many things like that, and just like it was cool that there was the temple, and I really did like Nyssa getting possessed. Like I loved the whole the two sides competing for each other with sort of the split personality going on of the one entity where they're talking through Nyssa, and it's very much like The Exorcist or something where that was cool.
Yeah. I liked it because it was intriguing until the reveal of those creatures when the two of them are superimposed and they have that whole back and forth. When it was just
like that. I would have taken 45 minutes of just that. I have the floor. I've got the conch now. And the way that they win them over, though, like where the one guy's like, nah, I don't think we should do this because, I'm right, you're wrong. And he's like, all right. Then the doctor, it was like the doctor and Tegan and Nyssa, don't they hold their hands up? Like, what do they do?
Yeah.
Where they have to wish.
They're focusing their will on
this episode stinks. That's why I'm surprised that you were more into it.
Like I said, this is not in the top half of my favorite episodes. And it has a lot of problems. I expected to hate it just based on feedback. So I'm surprised by how benign this episode is.
Other than
that's a given. That's a given. Yes. Other than that, it's a perfectly sort of episode.
But the thing that, again, and I don't mean to harp on this,
because you are
with Khalid or Khaled or whatever his name is.
DJ Khaled.
But it's sort of at a level where you're like, okay, that's a little much. And then when you find out halfway through that it wasn't even necessary. It's just the master likes to do that voice. When he's alone, he likes to do. He's in the outfit. There's no one in the room. Like he's watching the monitor by himself.
Wait,
and he's still making those words up.
Maybe he's fooling the seraphim. I keep saying seraphim like angels, seraphim, whatever. Maybe he's fooling them. They're watching him. That consciousness. They don't know that he's a Time Lord. They think he's a horrible caricature, Asian racist alien.
I would believe that if...
So even when he's alone, he's not really alone.
But he wasn't... Khalid wasn't himself a Zeraphim. Like, if they had him pretending to be a Zeraphim within the consciousness and he tricked them... That would make sense.
That'd be a whole different story.
You know what I mean? Like,
a whole different story.
If there was some relationship
but he's using
to
them. He has harnessed their power.
But he could have done that as the master. What I'm saying, like, with the story, like, if he was impersonating someone else, that someone else should have had a relationship with the Seraphim. He just likes to do that voice.
He just likes it.
And it's not it's made up words. Like he's just saying like and there's so many scenes like where he's doing that voice and that character, and the doctor's standing next to them, and they're just standing there. And there's nothing really going on, and they're watching a movie of Nyssa and Tegan try to sneak into that dumb temple that's like that stupid pyramid-looking thing. And it's like, could you just judo chop him? John Pertwee would have knocked that chump out. He's just
okay. Well, while we're talking about them trying to make their way into the inner sanctum of the temple, at least we got some callbacks to. Well, we got to see Adric again. So.
We did get to see Adric again. And we got to see, I'm going to forget all their names, but we see the creature that killed Nyssa's dad, who became the master, so that's kind of interesting.
Right.
And what's the third enemy? There's three of them.
We saw the one from, the one we just reviewed, the face that explodes in the fire, in the Great Fire of London.
No.
Folks, no. We do this professionally. This is the only way we make money. We know.
But
how
while
to do
you're
this.
doing that,
the visitation. From the visitation. Yeah.
Well, Adric pleads for his life. If you pass through me, I die for real. Nyssa's not even taking a chance that could be real. She's like, yeah, look at him. He's got the star. Star could have healed himself. He's some kind of apparition ghost. It could be his soul. She don't care.
Yeah.
They go through it. And the fact that they go through Adric and then he screams in pain.
I know.
That may have really been Adric. Like,
what if it was?
I think that was his chance to survive, and they killed him again.
No, because with the Master, he had that whole block transfer thing. Maybe he had another version of Adric, and like that was an actual real copy.
They could have booted him up, and he could have
actually killed the remaining
not now,
copy
though.
of Adric.
That man's gone.
Oh, jeez, that makes that casts a whole light on this story. That just
so weird, man.
Another level. Real sad. So we got to see all that. Oh, did we also mention that the Concorde makes an appearance in the story?
Oh God, Concorde, which is an impressive plane.
It's a very impressive plane. I'm sorry,
I'm
that
not
it's
anti-Concorde.
No,
they just say it so many times. Like any chance they get to say Concorde, they say Concorde.
This story is brought to you by Concorde. What did you think of the fact that they had to lay the TARDIS on its side and then they had to climb out
and then hit the button to readjust the center of gravity or whatever?
But then there's one later when they're coming out of it. They're coming out of it like a clown car, and they're clearly climbing up stairs inside the TARDIS to get out of it, which was kind of fun to see. Oh well,
that I didn't mind. That was sort of amusing to see the TARDIS in a different
It's just
rotation or anything.
I mean, it's no new Doctor Who doing backflips and flying through an open door into the swimming pool.
There was just... And who are the skeletons, too? Remember, they land... The first time they land on what they think is the airport, when we turned out it's an illusion generated by the Master.
Right.
Or I should say that an illusion generated by Khalid, who is actually the Master. And Nisa sees it for what it is for a second, and you see a cool shot of a bunch of skeletons against a wall.
Right.
Passengers that didn't make it.
Yeah.
Previous humans that don't exist that time period.
No,
aliens? Maybe it was the alien...
I don't think that's right, but I like
it. What are they called? Xenomorphs?
Zeraphim.
Because they do say a point that I think that they were about to start resurrecting themselves when the Master showed up, and he...
Yeah.
I don't know.
I was assuming it was just other
looking cool
creatures that had fallen through this little curvature.
Well, they look human. They're skeletons, and so they look like they're human. Which is
it was a previous flight. It was Amelia Earhart. Who knows? Someone else fell through the
I wish that it seems like there's that's what I mean. There was cool ideas. So if they had played around with that, but they don't really. You just know it's an illusion. The professor walks around like, this is all psychic projection, and, one race is superior to the other race, or whatever he was saying.
Was he actually arguing eugenics?
I think he was. That's what I'm saying. Like,
wow.
That's what he's really like. You know what I mean? Like, he was...
When he's home alone,
the outtakes are horribly racist.
Oh, my goodness. He starts doing the accent for no reason.
That's why that's where it all came from.
Weird. Oh, my goodness. So other people, we'll talk about this in the emails when we get to it, but the sets, etc. I didn't have so much of a problem with the sets, except the contrast between the background matte paintings and the foreground. It was one of some of the worst blue screen that we've seen. Some of the blue. I'm not even
just because of the perspective and stuff. It just made it more obvious.
Was bad, but I'm talking about just like when they're first realized that they're 14 million years ago, and they're standing on this like rocky outcropping, and behind them is a matte painting of the endless expanse of the land going behind them. It was so fake. Yeah. It's so much worse, and I have a lot of respect for people who are scenic artists who are able to actually do that sort of. It just the way it was shot looked really bad. Otherwise, I think the sets were fine. I liked the inner sanctum was okay. The big as they're trying, they has the Master.
Yeah, there's like the inner sanctum, and then there's the outer inner,
where they're trying to break through it, which I thought was pretty.
They're just chipping away, and then they get through, and then they
trying to rip off the panels,
hack it back up, and
sure.
He's just the Master. Just whole episode of just the Master plugging stuff in outside. Just plug it in. I'm gonna create a feedback loop or whatever he was doing.
There was a lot of that sort of just like, oh, this makes sense. Techno gobbledygook that was just like, and I have a high tolerance for that. Obviously, I'm a fan of the show when they just do that stuff all the time. But for some reason, in this story, there was a lot of it that just didn't kind of connect together, and just like
I feel like
okay, I guess if you concentrate hard enough, you can affect the way that the reality and the Zeraphim.
He was making reality look the way it was to fool
some of the people some of the time
because he wanted the crew to get into the temple. It just
to help him break into the temple.
To get the but it was just, it seemed like an awful lot of work.
It really did.
He could have just chipped away with a hammer the way they did.
He wasn't able to. I mean, he had his TARDIS there, and I know his TARDIS couldn't fly through time, but was it able to move through space?
Probably.
Did it just happen to land right? Did it happen to land right next to that, next to the entrance to the inner sanctum? But it didn't go any further, or did he move it there? Could he not have just transported inside?
Right. The last time we saw him was when?
Castrovalva.
That was it. And we haven't missed him since.
I don't think we've seen him.
Because I think they said the last time we saw you was then.
That's the last time they had seen him.
And he had been locked away in a cave when we saw him last, right? Where all the people rushing at him and the doctor escaped.
Yeah, right. He was apparently going to be ripped limb from limb.
That was Logopolis, wasn't it?
That was Logopolis.
Yeah, see, I'm getting all confused. No.
You're right, though. You're absolutely right. We saw him in Logopolis. But they specifically say in this story, he must have escaped Castrovalva. You're 100% right. That's weird. I don't know. I mean, it's probably on one of these.
No, but he was in
either we're horribly wrong. Right? What? What show is this that we're reviewing? Oh, Castrovalva was later anyway. I'm sorry, guys.
Yeah, that's the one that's after. That's right after.
Everyone who's screaming at us right now.
No, they should be screaming at you because I did not make that mistake.
I get it. I
originally
Logopolis and then Castrovalva.
Last show.
My bad.
Last show, people.
I'm also.
But in the novelization,
I'm a glass of wine in right now, so that makes this a little harder to do. Okay.
All right, so do we have anything else to add for this? I feel like I'm coming up empty on additional.
There were a couple. The Doctor did have actually a couple nice moments. He does make a reference. It's times like these that I still wish I had my scarf, which was kind of cute. The callbacks to previous, to seeing Adric and the previous, enemies. That was kind of.
And we
nice.
did mention
there's some nice moments.
Yeah, we did mention in Earthshock part of the reason we get Adric here was to fool to hide the fact that he's going to die in Earthshock. So they put him ahead on the schedule to appear in this episode as if he's a character, but obviously we know he was killed.
Yep.
For no reason.
Was there anything else that was really interesting?
No.
Yeah, no. I mean, we pretty much hit it all. Oh, also in this episode, what I thought was actually kind of cool was the Concorde makes an appearance. If you didn't notice. I can't leave it alone. We're terrific. Okay, so, I mean, overall, yes, I guess I didn't actually like this episode.
Yeah, you started strong, and then I feel like maybe I talked you out of it.
I thought I was going to hate the story, but in fact, I just mildly disliked the story. Therefore, it's a win.
Yeah, and this is...
My expectations were set low.
This is written by Bidweed, or whatever. We said his name was Bidweed, right? Who also wrote Castrovalva, which we both liked. So
that's interesting.
What are you going to do? Some are winners, some are not winners. I did not like it, but as you mentioned, people have mixed feelings. Some people like this storyline, some people don't. What did our listeners think, Dan?
Oh, you want to go to some emails? We did get some emails, some comments from you guys. Thank you so much for writing in. I try to reply to them whenever we get them, but I will always read them on the episode. Well, first of all, I don't think we actually read this because it came in late.
Is this an Earthshock comment?
Yeah. Did we read this one about the Earthshock? I'm just going to read it again from Damon. Just in case we didn't read it before, at least you get to hear it now. If we read it before, hey, that's 2. Awesome. Damon says, just listened to the latest podcast and loved it as always. I remember watching Earthshock as an 8-year-old and it was awesome with the awesome androids, Cybermen, and loads of action. Then the death of Adric, which came as a shock to me and my friends. Oh, we did read this. Okay, Damon, you're right. That was pretty shocking. I'm sorry. I forgot to get rid of this email.
Did we read that one?
Next up. Yeah, I think so.
I remember you wanting to know what fans would have thought watching it for the first time, and maybe he's just answering that.
I know. But I think we also read it. Hey, guys. This is a live show.
Dan looks so tired.
Okay, I'm going to go back and keep going on this one just in case.
All right, well, thank you for that email. I hope that... Did he have anything else that he wants to add? Just finish it up.
The death of Adra came as a shock to me and my friends. We all loved it as we could relate to his character. I'm sure I read this. Just a couple of things. When Adric is typing before the keyboard explodes, look at the way he hovers. He keeps flinching and jumping. I made a gif of that, and he liked that as well.
I think you did read this.
It is actually, I know, right? But it is really funny that he's typing, and then you know that he's about to explode. Okay, Damon, you got it too.
Because he would get shocked even when the cameras weren't on. Because he was like kept in a closet for most of the time. That was like
would bring him out once a week to shoot his scenes.
Patty Duke was the one they kept in the closet, right?
That's right. They would also put they're the ones they put peanut butter on her lips to make her look like she was talking as she was like moving her. Okay. Another email. We got this one from PB from the UK. It says hi from the UK. PB&J says, Phil says, hi, just wanted to say I'm loving your podcast. I've been a long-time fan of Doctor Who, and while I think the new stuff is great, my heart lies with the classic series. You and a lot of our other...
And I will say this, and I will sort of echo him. As much as I like Season 10, Series 10, which I like, and I really like the last one, I also... And maybe that's because I have a podcast. But I feel like I look forward to the classic Who episodes way more than I do on a new episode coming out. Like a new episode's going to be coming out on Saturday. I don't know, but I really kind of want to get more into the next classic Doctor Who.
I know what you mean.
Like it's more interesting to me at this point for whatever reason. But go on.
Yeah. Yep. Phil goes on to say, I've seen everything that exists in the old stories and read vast amounts on production details.
Let me just interrupt here because I've also seen things. Now, I wouldn't say everything, but most things.
Okay. Phil goes on to say that he's...
Another thing, when I was a young boy in Catholic school, there was a kid named Phil, and I think something happened with him.
Okay. I fell away from the scene for a while to focus on RPGs in a big way. That I can get down with. I was a classic Dungeons & Dragons dungeon master myself.
See, that's cool. I never really played Dungeons & Dragons.
Can I get through this?
It is true that I think I've even talked about this on this show before. The time that my dad was with somebody's... this woman was married, but something was going on with my dad and this woman. And I remember having to play Dungeons & Dragons with her husband, who did not like me, and they named my character Herpes. That's my only time playing Dungeons & Dragons. I bought Star Frontiers. Nobody else wanted to play Star Frontiers. I made a campaign for myself. No one ever played it.
Did you name your character Herpes?
I did not. No, I knew something was up. I was like, 11. I was like, this ain't cool. But go on. I'm going to keep interrupting, though. D&D, RPG games. I lost Dan.
Okay. Well, I still remember much of my extensive knowledge has faded a little and has a few holes here and there. Hey, let me just interrupt myself and say, Phil, we don't do as much research as you probably did back in the day, and my memory is full of so many holes, it's barely being held together. He says, however, very kindly, your podcast is a fantastic way to reacquaint myself with Doctors 1 through 8. Hey, you're not the most knowledgeable of fans. Yes, you are right, sir. We are not, but we are probably the most charming. He says, thankfully, because I think that would make your show boring and run-of-the-mill, there are many other podcasts.
There's a lot of
just search Classic Doctor Who Review Podcast. Eric, are we number one at the top of the list?
No, because that other guy.
No,
who are you?
not.
Are you listening? You haven't put a show out since like 2006.
He put out 2, I think, and then his SEO is strong. I'm sorry, he wins.
No, it's because Apple.
That's fine. It's not about the stories. It's about a chance for Eric and I to fucking cut each other off while we're trying to talk.
I just want more reviews.
Eric, can I finish?
I have to feed the emptiness in my inside of me by looking for positive reviews and things that'll never make me whole. It'll never make me whole, but I have to keep reaching.
I gotta watch it. Phil goes on to say, you're definitely the most endearing and entertaining, and your reviews are bang on the mark. Yes, Phil, you are right. I subscribed a couple months ago and have started from the beginning, so I'm only as far as number 16, Pyramids of Mars, but I'm picking up the pace and will have caught up soon.
We were so young.
That's awesome to hear. thanks for putting up possibly the best Doctor Who podcast, emphasis on the, by Phil, not me, around and long. May your wonderful efforts continue. Phil B., thank you so much. He also says that he is an Android user and can't do the whole reviews for us because Google Play is a piece of crap. So that's fine. He also doesn't do the Twitter and the Facebook stuff.
Yeah.
Totally fine, Phil. You can enjoy it without having to do all the sharing. If you find a friend and your friend's like, I want to get into Classic Who, and you think this will be a way to turn them off from ever watching another Classic Who episode again, recommend them to our podcast. That'll be fantastic. Moving right along.
You can also share, as Dan was saying, but if you are purchasing DVDs and you want to get a DVD, you can go to our webpage, schedule, and there's little buy links, and that's where Big Daddy Amazon gives us a little bit off the top. They just shave a little bit out, and they throw us a couple pennies.
That's how Eric's kids eat, is based on that. Eric here's the thing. Eric has money, but he's decided
they don't get any.
They're getting food. Yeah. They don't get any. They're only getting.
It just goes into microphones and
so
compressors.
If you want Eric's kids to starve, that's cool. Don't buy them.
Oh, Dan, come on. But seriously, reviews on iTunes. If you can't do reviews on iTunes, you can leave a review on Stitcher. If you don't use Stitcher, you can just share that thing. You can tell people about it.
At theolddoctorwhoshow.com. Go to the show page. Go to that episode page. Leave a review. We have one to read as well. Just leave a little message there. We read them. Next up, from Deborah. Hey, Deborah. How you doing? Regarding Time Flight, Deborah says, if not for the terrible, she says, set, makeup, and special effects, this could have been a very good episode. Deborah, I think you and I are.
So you two are closer, I think, and I
think so. It could have been. She says a very good episode. Deborah, I take issue with the word "very." I think it could have been an acceptably good episode.
The pieces are there. I just think it had to be put together in a totally different order by totally different people.
Yeah, no. If no one that was currently involved in that story, they just replaced everyone, basically, it could have been better. Also, more shots of the Concorde would have probably made this a little bit better. Next, we do have a comment on the website. Like I just mentioned, you can go to theolddoctorwhoshow.com and leave a comment on an individual episode review page. This is a comment from Michael regarding Earthshock, number 43. Can you believe this is the 44th one we've done of these so far, and no one's stopped us? Michael says, I hate being that guy, but Adric isn't the first companion to die in the series. Now, that might be true. Hey, I have no way of checking this. There's not such a thing as, a vast store of knowledge on some sort of global network where I could check this out. But in the stories that we reviewed, this is the first one to die, and we're not. I hate to say this every single episode that we put out here, but we did a very selective, weird choice of stories that we're going to review this first time through. So we probably missed anyone.
It was not weird.
It made sense at the time.
It totally made sense at the time.
In retrospect, now it looks a little weird. Why did we start with the Aztecs?
Because it was only Netflix streaming, and that's all that they
Looking
had.
back,
people have access to our archive. We don't need to revisit this.
People know. Okay, so that's what we got. I also got an email from Google saying we should keep our account secure. So other than that, we did get some good messages from you guys. Thank you so much. You can also follow us on Twitter at TODW Show on the Twitters. Eric and I both manage that account, though mostly me.
Yeah, that's mostly Dan. And then we have Facebook, which is facebook.com/TODWS.
And that is
we're on Instagram, too, which is TODW Show. And I'm actually posting some of Dan's GIFs via the Instagram. But yeah.
I've been getting in the habit of making some super fun GIFs of these stories because for the ones that go a little slow, it gives me something to do. So those will be up there. We'll also have those on the Twitter feed. As we said, you can go to Apple Podcasts and leave us a review there. That does help us.
And we will read it. We also have the email, which you mentioned, theolddoctorwhoshow@gmail.com. You can write in about a show. You can give us user feedback, or you can ask us a question, and the Old Doctor Who promise we have to answer. It doesn't even matter if it's about Doctor Who.
That's right. Ask us something about Twin Peaks. We would love to talk about that. Also, just go to theolddoctorwhoshow.com. That's where we'll have each of the episodes. We'll have all the GIFs. You can listen to it right there if you're not a fan of... They're not that tasteful, though.
That's right.
So we have that. I think that's all of them. Yeah?
That's it.
I think we did it.
I think we covered
Eric,
the whole episode.
We made it through this one.
I'm again, I never want to watch it again.
Are you going to go back and review it again?
But I am looking forward to our next one, which...
Oh, what is our next one?
It's called Arc of Infinity, and I know really nothing about it, so I'm going to go in sort of blind. I thought I had heard it was good, but maybe not. So that's next for us.
Yeah.
Oh, we totally missed out on a huge thing about whether or not Tegan is been abandoned in an airport.
Oh, that is actually super important. I'm so sorry.
How did we not talk about that?
Tegan's been abandoned in an airport.
I don't think she's actually abandoned in an airport. Even though
She could be.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know what's happening.
I don't know.
I literally have no idea. And when I say literally, I know what that means. I don't have any idea. She could be stranded there.
Even though it's portrayed that way, I feel like
that is her
I didn't
time period,
feel any...
Okay, can I ask you this
sense of that it's going to stick.
How would you feel if she was left behind right now?
Oh, it would stink.
Would it?
Yeah, because I kind of like Tegan, even though all in all I like Tegan. And I would hate for them to abandon someone in that way. It feels needlessly cruel.
Agreed. I think that'd be a horrible way to leave her behind. So
that's why I don't think it's a thing.
I don't think so either. However, if she had been left behind, wouldn't be too upset. I liked her much more in the beginning. Again, it's the same issue they had with Adric. They don't know what to do with her. She ends up being a horrible scold to the Doctor.
She was great in Earthshock when she's going around being...
shocking the Earth.
aliens.
Being Ridley from Alien.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was great. She just needs to be a commando stewardess.
Yeah, well, that was the whole thing with the stewardess thing, and it's like... I know. She went back in the outfit just so that she could be back in the airport, and...
Can she not get there's a whole wardrobe.
They're so attached to the idea that she wants to be on a plane that they had to like.
I know. She ended up knowing a lot about like how, like not stewardess things, but like she had studied to be a pilot. It
would be more interesting if she had studied to be a pilot, but she didn't. Why were the tires so small?
Do you want to go back and review
let's go back and review the episode because they're like, you need air pressure. Why don't you get those tires off that giant plane and then they roll them up and they just
they're
look
little
like
donut. They're like spare tires from a Yugo.
From a child's car.
A child's car.
All right, let's be done because it's late and we've just run out of.
I think we maxed out. Just want to let you guys know this episode was brought to you by Concorde. Thank you guys very much, and until we talk to you next time, we'll talk to you next time.
Talk to you next time.
All right. Bye, everybody.
This time tomorrow, where will we be? On a spaceship somewhere, sailing across an empty sea.
Where's my robot? You know?